Hey, quantitative analysis. All right, here is the video you asked for, reviewing descriptive statistics in SPSS. So as you can see, I've got the quality of government data set open, and for this particular review, I'm going to be using the section of the data set from the Borman and Golder subsection. So the data that I'm using, the variables, are going to be a mixture of ordinal, nominal, interval, and ratio data. So let's take a look at the codebook just to check out some of these data. So average district magnitude, this is, as you can see, the average district magnitude in an electoral tier. So total number of seats allocated divided by the total number of districts in that tier. So what level of measurement would this be at? Hopefully you all know. I'll leave it blank there. All right, so we've got our variable average district magnitude. To run our descriptives, we're going to go up here to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and we're going to go to Frequencies. And as you can see, I'm going to clear that out. We don't want that one. I've already changed it so that I'm looking at the variable names instead of the labels. So I can skip on down a little bit more quickly to our average district magnitude variable. Then I'm going to choose the appropriate statistics. So because I have a ratio variable here, that means that I can choose all of our measures of central tendency that are appropriate for interval or ratio. So I can have mean, median. I can choose mode, although it's not that terribly interesting, but I can do it. Variance and standard deviation and range are all available. Minimum and maximum might be interesting to me. We haven't learned distribution yet, so go ahead and leave those blank. And if we're going to do percentiles, I haven't specified any percentiles for you in the homework, but if we were going to do them, the most common ones to do would be quartiles. So let's go ahead and continue. And do we want to display the frequency tables? Well, when we have interval data, we typically don't. If we had ordinal or nominal data, we would, but a frequency table for ordinal or interval is going to be huge. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it just to show you why. So hit OK, and you'll see my output momentarily. This might run a little bit slow. So first box that you're going to see, because remember you do have to interpret your output for me in the homework. So the N, this is, remember, how many cases. So this is how many are valid, 117. This is missing. This is how many countries are we missing this data. So for this particular variable, how many cases do we not have data for? So then we have our mean, which is our average, our median, 3. So this is the average district magnitude, so the average number of seats per district per election. Our mode is 1. Standard deviation, 52.57. Variance, much higher. Right? Keep looking. We've got a range. And now you'll see here is why we don't do our frequency tables typically for interval or ratio data. And that's because it's going to tell us how frequent every single number is, and this is going to be huge. So typically we do not select that option. All right, so pretty straightforward how we get that. I'm going to close that. You will want to save your output at each iteration. I am not going to. All right, so let's try a different one. Come back to our code book, and let's find a variable that instead of being ratio is something that is ordinal or nominal. So effective number of parties, those are all going to be interval data. But the electoral system type, this is going to be nominal because it's just the type of system. So we could change these numbers around and it wouldn't matter. So let's go ahead and find, we've got our electoral system type variable. So just come back here. That's GOL underscore EST. Make sure that we have that here, and we do, and we want the 3-class version. So same thing, we're going to go to Analyze, Descriptive. Now remember, for this we could go to either descriptives or frequencies. And we want to clear this out. Remember, we don't want to put them all in at the same time when we need different statistics. So if we have multiple variables that we need the same descriptive statistics for, you can do them all at once. But if you need different descriptives, don't put them all in at the same time because they have different needs. So this time the frequency tables make sense and will be useful, but we need to change our statistics. So now that we have nominal data, mean no longer makes sense because the numbers don't have real value. Median doesn't make sense because we could rearrange those numbers. Quartiles don't make any sense. None of these measures of dispersion make any sense either. So we can get rid of all of those. And now we have a much more simple chart. We have 118 valid cases, 75 missing. Our modal category is 2. Remember that 2 is proportional representation. So the most common system in our countries for which we have valid data is a proportional representation system. And so if this were the variable you needed to use for your homework, that's what I would want you to tell me. Alright, so just for fun, let's try and do, I think that's pretty straightforward. You should be able to do your homework now. But let's try and do a couple of graphs just to make sure that everything is clear and easy. So some graphs. We're going to go ahead and do just a straightforward pie chart. So remember that for pie charts, we do not want to do that with interval data. And just to demonstrate why, let's take a look at what it looks like with interval data. That some of you may have given this a try the other day in class and saw exactly why it was less than ideal. Hopefully we can do it. We'll see. It looks like maybe my SPSS froze. Hopefully not. Although maybe it did. Okay, I'm going to pause there. Maybe getting you a separate video for charts and graphs.